Welcome to SoCal Surf with Dan Nappy. Today and yesterday, went to Newport and met some family members and some kids. So we took some beginner boards and went out and surfed. But I got there a little earlier and did some surfing down by the pier. And yesterday was quite windy, choppy, but I managed to get a couple off the pier, and they were about waist high to shoulder high. And then after about an hour, I moved down towards lifeguard stand 24, which is the north end of the parking lot at Newport Pier area. And there is where I met up with the other group, and they had, I think, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old, and I think two 10-year-olds and a 15-year-old. I can't remember all their ages, but we went out there. I took some foam boards and we went out and pushed them in some waves, and they were doing pretty good, standing up. The good thing about being so young is you're light, and you can catch smaller waves and you can ride them easier because you're not having to, push so much board and weight. So they were getting up almost immediately, and one of them had done it before, so she was doing really well. And that went really good, so pretty happy. Water is really warm, so we've gotten, I'd say, when I say warm, I mean 68, 70 degrees. The wind was blowing, which made it cold because the wind on wet skin, as you know, is colder. And so that went for about another hour I spent with them, and then they were doing it on their own. They were jumping into waves or paddling into the waves, but they were, the waves had already broken. They were white. Long before, it takes a long time to get to the point where you can go outside and select a wave to catch and ride it. So for now, getting them to ride the whitewater is very, very good, and they're doing very well on that. And then today, I went early again, went out to the pier, where the pier is breaking a lot bigger than the rest of the waves from there to the jetty going north. It was mostly, it was smaller than yesterday, but not quite as windy and not quite as choppy. Still a little bit of a stormy feel to it. But I've got 2 or 3 waves right off the bat going left, and it seems like they're hitting that shelf and all breaking at once. But if you get close enough to the pier, you can get a left coming off the pier area, which I did. And I got one of the best, turns, bottom turns, and, peeling off the top. And, had a good bottom turn with a real good hit off the top, and I came down perfectly perpendicular with the surfboard pointing directly towards the shore. And it was usually, I'm a little lazy on that. It doesn't quite come all the way around, but I'm on the smaller board, which is, not the one I usually use at Newport, but I'm going to keep on it for now. And that one came off a lot quicker and came straight down the wave, which was perfect for me. Then I did another bottom turn, and the wave was pretty much over, so I did a hard turn and came out the back and just got back on and paddled back out. And paddle out wasn't too difficult because the water's pretty shallow. The tide was out and going out, I should say, and it wasn't very deep, so you're able to walk 80% of the way out, and the last 20%, a couple of duck dives or even no duck dives, and you're outside. If you want to wait for the sets to stop, you can just wait and then just basically paddle the last little bit. And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to get back outside. So that was the advantage. The disadvantage, of course, is it's smaller and weaker. So there you go. But I had to be at Newport because I was going to meet the same group. In fact, it grew, and now we have 6 kids instead of 4. All, pretty much in the 10 to 15-year-old bracket, all relatives, grand nieces and nephews, if you want to call them that. But I brought an extra foam board and the 2 body boards. So that got absorbed pretty quickly. They were out there catching waves, and the 2 that were there yesterday, they were doing very well on their own. I got them started, pushed them in a couple of waves, and I just left them alone. And they were paddling and catching waves on their own. So that was a big improvement. The 2 newer boys didn't have as much experience, but I pushed him in the one wave, and then he wanted to go on the bodyboard. So I gave him the bodyboard, and he was just catching the smaller whitewater and riding those in, and that went well as well. So very good day for them and me. Didn't see any dolphins today, but they were there yesterday after I left. They were saying that they were a big group of dolphins that came by and were playing in the water and jumping and everything. So they were pretty lucky to see that. And the water's still warm, 68, 70 degrees in that area, and wind was a lot less. It was not as windy, but it was still a little stormy. And when the tide goes way out like that, it seems to hit a shelf. And they seem to, even though the wave looks like it's got a corner or a place to surf, it all breaks at once. So you catch it, turn, and boom, you're in the basically a shore break type of a feel. So I got a bodyboard out myself since I brought a couple of them, and I was catching some of those shore break type waves, and they were fun. And I didn't have any fins. I just jumped into the wave and rode it down, and some of those broke pretty steep. Got one good left on the bodyboard where I was able to get underneath the wave and get covered up, which is easier to do on a bodyboard because you don't have to stand. You can just immediately turn and get underneath it. So I caught a couple of those and caught a couple just bigger waves that were white and just rode them straight in. And then just watched the kids for a while, and they were catching waves and riding them on their own. So that was excellent. So hopefully that'll keep going. Hope they're excited about it and stay with it. But, one of them lives in Vegas, so they don't get a lot of chances to come out. And the other one lives in Yorba Linda area, Anaheim Hills. And so they're involved in a lot of other sports, so activities, dance, and what have you. So they don't get to go to the beach as much, but it seems like they're showing up more and more. So anyway, that's my report for today. The U.S. Open city is being built down by the pier, and that looks like it's getting to be a little bit different configuration than what it was the last few years. So I'm anxious to see what differences might be there. That's going to start on the 23rd of July and go to the 31st of July. So pretty much the last 10 days of the month are going to be U.S. Open, which brings a lot of people in. It gets a little crowded. All the parking gets used up. There's a few crazies, of course. Always got to have them. But most of all, it's pretty fun. A lot of people walking around. A lot of booths, skateboard, biking, surfing. It's got a lot of activities. Sometimes they have concerts and different things. So that'll be awesome. We'll see how that goes. And the last podcast I did about Newport and surfing between the jetties was completely wrong. I didn't know what numbers I was at, but it was pretty. When I was surfing with Brian, we were up by 34, between 34 and 36, and that's where we were. I'm not sure what I said now, but I don't think that was accurate. So clear that up. Thanks for listening. Hopefully get back to Huntington tomorrow. We get some bigger waves and see what we can do there. All right, till then, thanks for listening. Bye.